man, rocket man. Okay, I'll try to keep it as crisp as possible. First off, it's a pleasure to be here. It was very interesting to hear about the trauma care program that happened. So when somebody invited me, I actually dropped in to find out if they really have a trauma care program going. And Dr. Sriram is there. He didn't even know who I was, but he explained clearly what the program is and how things go. And after I met him, only then I said, okay, I'll come over to visit you to find out what it is and other things. Mr. Arun had very succinctly pointed out there in the whole premise. It's not just this thing. To put you in perspective, there is also a gender bias in all the accidents that happen. Almost 98% of the two-wheeler accidents are male who end up as fatality, and majority of them are in the 18 to 30 age group. Therefore, there is a body which actually calculates what is the cost to economy, which says between 3 to 5% is of the GDP is the cost to economy because of road traffic accidents. If you have skewing as what we have here in Tamil Nadu, it probably is even higher than the 3 to 5%. So we estimate it at about 6 to 7%, but anyway, so these are all only estimates, so there is no real figures, so let's not get buried in numbers which actually don't mean anything. But there is one number that actually means a lot, and that makes a lot of sense for a lot of us, is the use case that I saw with Dr. Vinod. So she said that he had a GCS of 3 when he came in, and he is now actually doing an impaction. So awesome. So it's a great family and great effort by the individual. But more importantly, it's good that an hospital has taken that efforts to have a comprehensive program to take these things forward. So in Tamil Nadu, one of the things that the government had actually taken, where IIT Madras had been in a supportive role so far from our lab, has been is to all of us are part of it. It is a shared asset. Road is a shared asset. A large chunk of us think that we are cheating when we don't wear a helmet. We are thinking that we have cheated the cops if we come back home without a fine. But it is a shared asset, and when we are in a shared asset, it is everybody's problem. It is not just your problem that you are there, because there is a huge cost associated. Now, going forward onto it, I mean, let's say if you are not able to avoid an accident does happen, the one thing that is absolutely required is an absolutely budgetary certainty. And that government, I mean, there is nothing to beat government when it comes to actually managing big problems. But government alone cannot manage big problems. There is a very large space for hospitals like Global to come in and pitch in, so that there is pockets which can be built of specializations and things that can be taken forward. In that way, it is good that they are there. But what is more important is not to say that the government doesn't do. It is that all of us do together, because it's a society that we are trying to save. It is people that we are trying to save, and we would be lying to push forward. So the reason why I use that is a large chunk of comparison happens. Should I go to, 99% of everybody in this room, if you have an accident, there is a greater tendency that we say we will only go to any private hospital. But its government hospitals also do a terrific care. Likewise, there is also private hospitals which do terrific care. So it is not that the government-private divide that is more critical, but what is more critical is, do we get the right care at every place? Which essentially means, are the best practices that are practiced in either of the sectors are able to go across, so that we collectively build the society to a point that we have lesser and lesser deaths that are coming about in the whole process. So that is number one. So the number two aspect of it is, once the education part of it, which usually talks about accident, this, that, and other thing, but majority of the time miss out what happens after your emergency care is done. there is a huge amount of rehabilitation that is required, which is something that many of us have as a challenge. I'm sure that Global here is trying a large chunk about getting the rehabilitation. So does so many people. But we need to have cheaper and more economic way by which we can put the patient back or the individual back into an gainful economic environment. The gainful is not just himself going and occupying a job, but also allowing his family or her family to be gainfully employed, in a sense that you don't have one person stuck up to taking care of an individual. So from that perspective, getting the rehabilitative part going forward should be the bigger challenge that we all need to climb and go forward and push into the this thing. Last one that I really want to send across as a thought to majority of the people, but mostly for the media at large, is do take a lot of positive stories around about what is it that we as individuals could do to a shared asset, and how that shared asset can be used even better. I mean, a couple of days back or a week back, there was a big, actually not big, but there was a very small WhatsApp thing that was going around. I think it was about the Tirupathur police talking about how to use the road. Right? A large chunk of people actually don't really recognize how to pass between lanes, how to pass a vehicle, or how to enter into a vehicle. All of us take it as demeaning to learn these things. These are all things that the transport department is actually trying to push, so does the police in terms of the education. The reason why I say media is very critical in this is, if there is one of the 5 limbs or the 4 limbs or the 4, if you look at it as enforcement, the engineering and the enforcement of the emergency care, this thing, the one education, the one link that is actually very weak today is the quantum of education that we give. How we educate can actually make our roads much safer, so that we don't get into this thing. So therein, I would request our friends in media to push this positive stories of education, not about punitive, saying that this is bad, that is bad, but what do we do, how do we look forward and positive, that should be very good. Thank you. Best wishes for Global to go.
Thank you, sir. I also request sir to